Hey guys, I recorded a video a couple weeks ago, or maybe it's a couple months ago now, of my faith walk journey with everything to do with pregnancy, loss, and grieving, as well as celebrating this new life that God has privileged Kenny and I to carry in this season. So, what I did was record a brief video over on my phone, and throughout the video, I think my camera died, so there's a pretty abrupt ending, so I just thought I'd record an intro explaining that, but I'll let us get to the video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe. I do not feel so good. Well, I was sitting here thinking about a YouTube video topic that I want to record and practicing recording it, and then I thought to myself, why don't I just record it real time and edit it after the fact? But one thing that I wanted to share was, I guess, the area of faith. Everyone has that one area of their life where they struggle to have faith in God for, whether it be family, finances, your health, believing God for a godly spouse, a God-honoring marriage, children, education, just really anything that causes you to doubt God's faithfulness. And for me, that area has been the issue of pregnancy and childbirth. I've shared multiple times, and I will continue to spread awareness for miscarriage awareness, 1 in 4, pregnancy after loss, all that. I've experienced 4 losses, and with every loss up until the last 2, I felt like, you know what, maybe it's God's timing. Everything happens for a reason. And I justified it by, you know what, I really wasn't ready. It got really difficult when I did feel like I was ready, meaning I finally was married to my husband, and after a divorce and a really toxic relationship, I knew that this was God's best for me. So when we got pregnant, I just knew that everything was going to be fine this time around because the timing was right. I was healthy. We have a home. Why not? We're newlyweds. It's a little soon, but why not? So when we lost that baby, it really made me wonder, okay, why me? Like, is something wrong? But I still pressed forth to process that pain because I figured, you know what, maybe it's infertility. I'm going to do some testing, and if the testing comes back and, you know, something will probably come up to let us know why we're suffering, and from there we can do IVF or whatever it is they do to make people that have a hard time having kids have kids. So we do it. We do the testing. Everything comes back normal. There's no reason. I actually don't qualify for IVF because of my age, because the miscarriages haven't been back to back despite having 2 consecutive miscarriages. And then there came the test. I was frustrated with myself, with the doctors, with God, not really knowing what to do next, but also trying to use the previous coping mechanisms of maybe it's just not God's timing, maybe it's not the right time. So fast forward to not really being able to process the last loss, but shifting my focus to my career, shifting my focus to when I'm 30, because I'm in my 20s, right? We go on a trip 4 to 5 months after our most recent loss, and I have really bad heartburn from eating a kale salad. And we haven't taken any preventive measures not to have a child, but I also kind of have put it in my mind that I possibly cannot carry. And I had decided at that point that that's not going to come in and, you know, disrupt my faith or my belief in God. This is not going to be a hindrance. Motherhood's not going to be an idol. If I can't have children biologically, hey, it is what it is. If I feel called to motherhood, I can show up in that space in different ways. Adoption, foster care, pouring into my niece and my nephew. I'd set it in my mind that my body may not be able to do this job. And that's kind of how I processed it. So we're on this trip. I get heartburn from a kale salad. And then I like cry at the drop of the hat. And then I realized my period's like 9 days late, and I let Kenny know, but I don't want him to get his hopes up because why now? Why would it work now? We come home, we take a test, we see the line, and I'm pregnant. But it doesn't feel like I'm pregnant like it felt before. It just feels like, here we are again, let's see how this goes. And that's how it felt from 1 week, well, not 1 week, because you never find out at 1 week, from like 4 to 5 weeks to 9 weeks. I was so unable to process this news. I didn't even go to the doctor until about 8 weeks, which is normal for most women, but when you're high risk, the baby likes to give me heartburn. But when you're high risk, as soon as you find out, they usually have you come in and they can start tracking and, following your pregnancy from 5 weeks. So even waiting until 8 weeks was me kind of being like, well, something's going to go wrong. It's going to go wrong in this time span, and I don't have to see a heartbeat or a baby to even connect with. So I get to 8 weeks, and I then decide I'm going to wait till 12 weeks to go to a doctor. And I mentioned it to our marriage counselor, who was like, absolutely not. And ended up going to the doctors at 12 weeks and hearing a heartbeat and everything looking fine. But then conversations of my previous loss coming up, being sent to a high risk. You know what? I gotta rewind. Pregnancy brain. I think I said I went at 8 weeks, right? Yes. Okay, I went at 8 weeks, saw the heartbeat, and I was like, yay, this is great, baby's great. And then at 9 weeks, I went again because I have to go weekly, and baby's great, but they tell me to go downstairs, and they tell me that my cervix is dilating and funneling, and I only have like an inch left. And in order to save this baby, because my body is most likely going to miscarriage, I need something that's called a cerclage. And that is when they sew your cervix shut until you're 30 weeks. But there's complications there because it can pop the water bubble. You can tell I'm a first-time mom because I just said water bubble. The pregnancy sac or whatever, when they take out the stitching for the cervix at 30 weeks, they can pop that, blah, 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 risk. And then the kicker, you need this now, but most doctors don't do it until you're 12 weeks. So go home and be on bed rest, but if you have bleeding through a pad, go to an ER. So basically, you're most likely going to miscarriage. So I leave the hospital. I come to the car and I'm angry and I'm bawling, and I tell Kenny, we let a family member know, we pray, we listen, we come home, I adhere to the doctor's orders, I stay calm, I take off Monday, we go to the high-risk doctor, hold our breath, do an ultrasound, cervix is fine, I don't need surgery. But can you imagine the highs and the lows? It was the beginning of that journey that I realized that this was more than a pregnancy. It would be a test of my faith. It would be an area in which God could really show up and deepen my relationship with him. But I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I never expected pregnancy and childbirth to be easy, but I didn't expect it to be like this. And I think this is where a lot of people find themselves when they're in that space of not really fully being able to trust the process. And that is the space that God does his best work. It is truly a testament for me to be able to even share this. I'm still in my second trimester. The baby isn't here yet. I don't have the full testimony yet of the manifestation of the newborn baby. But I do have a testimony for those who are in the midst of a test. And that's to keep going, to keep trusting, to keep exchanging that fear for faith every time it rises up and it speaks over what God has said about you. He has a plan and a purpose, and your pain is not just for suffering's sake. Our lives of Christians is to bear witness to unbelievers. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says the angels in heaven are looking down and watching the way that we live our lives. I think it's a lot easier to kind of hide away when you're going through a test, to make sure you accomplish it, because that's the only way that we as man can see that God gets the glory. But God gets the glory really when we are transparent and we're authentic. And I'm not knocking anyone that decides to really keep certain things private. I think we all have grace for certain things. And grace is something I've asked God for in this area. And I feel like this right here, me even sharing, is an answered prayer. It's been very difficult to get to this place. I'm not fully there. I have not arrived. Neither has my baby. And that's nerve-wracking. But at the end of the day, what I've been working through with the Lord is not... So what I was going to say is that at the end of the day, I've been working with the Lord not to idolize a destination, whether that be like a certain milestone or a certain point in life, and to just walk with him throughout the process. And one of the things that I realized I had to let go of was idolizing my version of motherhood. And that was even to the part of idolizing Or feeling as though God wasn't God if I wasn't able to have a biological child. I had to let that go because nothing can come up against my faith, even my desire to be a mother. I really just had to say, God, your will and not mine. I really want to have this little girl. We wanted a girl from the jump. I really want to have this, even before we knew it was a little girl. I really want to have a little girl. I want to have a little boy. I want to have as many kids as you will grace me for to have with Kenny, because I finally have found my person. But if that is not your will, I will still serve you. I will still respond. I will still obey. I will still give you praise. I will still do what you have planned for me to do. And when I let that go, I was able to really accept, the things that had happened that were hurtful. I was able to accept the unacceptable, that 4 babies came into my life and left before I ever got a chance to see them face to face. And from that point on, I really started walking towards restoration. And it was during that walk that Kenny and I found ourselves in the place of finding out we are expecting. I don't know that there is a formula to go about when it comes to trying for children, or I don't know the special prayers. I don't know. I really wouldn't even know what to say to someone who came to me and was like, hey, Leah, I'm also having recurrent miscarriages. What did you do? Without sounding like a generalized Christianese statement such as, I trusted God, because that's what I had to do. That's all I could do. And if you are in a season where things are not making sense and you're trusting God, but you feel like you're being let down, it's okay. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be confused and frustrated and upset. I don't care what anybody says. Certain things do not make sense. Everything does not happen for a reason in my mind. Maybe in the book of life it does, but not everything makes sense. Not everything we can apply reasoning to. But you got to figure out, what your ultimatums are. Are you going to give up? Are you going to lose hope? Are you going to let your life go to SHIT because you're not getting what you want when you want? Or are you going to challenge yourself to work through your pain, to figure out what that purpose is and what it is God's trying to say to you despite what you're seeing and what you're feeling? And that's really all I can say on that for now. I'd love to upload a video later of Kenny's perspective. We both have the same beliefs, but we both approach life differently, and that's what makes marriage interesting. So I'd love to kind of sit down with him in front of the camera and share where his headspace was with our previous losses and where his head's at now with our current pregnancy and the progression. We are very excited to meet baby girl. We are more than halfway through with this pregnancy, and it has definitely been a test, but from my previous experiences, I know that God is, at the mountaintop and he's in the valley. So we just keep going, taking it day by day, learning what we can with each lesson, and knowing that even what feels like a loss, there's growth. There's growth happening. So that is it for now. I will hopefully be back and updating more things since I'll be in the house a lot more. Thank you for watching.